Thank you so much for being here. Today's session is all about getting started with Figma Slides. I'm Katie Chambers, an advocate here at Figma, and I'll be your host today. I'm joined by Raji King, another designer advocate on our team, who's going to be on the back end helping answer questions and bringing questions to the end. Great. I'm going to go ahead and spotlight myself so y'all can follow me along in this presentation and go back to our original poll. So we had 53 results. We have a lot of folks doing pitches and proposals. I'm hoping that Figma Slides can really make those pitches shine so you get that approval that you need for those proposals. Let's see who we have here. So we have Veronica, Josh, Manny, Greg, Lula, all doing pitches and proposals. Let's see for the folks that other. So the Mosh, Billy, Joy, Vivian, let us know in the chat. What is the other? What are the types of other presentations are you doing? And then we have a few other folks here. William and Neha and Alabaster are doing readouts. Avery, Catherine, Jordy, Joshua doing kickoffs. Fantastic. And we have a good amount of folks doing reviews as well. Thank you for being here. Thank you for chatting with us and starting to share. There will be lots of opportunities for you all to provide input in this presentation. So for those who are able to click that link and join us here, we love to see it. With that, let us dig in and talk about getting started with Figma Slides. And what we're going to be covering in the next 15 minutes or so, we're going to be talking about how you can improve your presentations. The things that we're trying to address here with Figma Slides is that we feel like it takes way too long to make a beautiful deck. So for those of us with design skills, you spend a lot of time getting everything exactly pixel perfect in the tool that you like to work out of. For those of us like myself without great design skills, you end up trying to waste too much time getting exactly the way you look and struggle to do so in the tool set that you have available. Additionally, we know that there are trade-offs between the perfect design and collaboration. You might be designing in Figma Design, but then have to collaborate with other folks in tools like Google Slides or PowerPoint or other tools that you're using to present out to your stakeholders. And then you have to trade off between those tools of do you want to collaborate with your team or do you want to have exactly the design tool set that you've come to know and love? And then lastly, we feel that sometimes presentations don't deliver the outcomes that they're intended to. You end up talking at people for 30, 45 minutes, and then you come to the end of the meeting and are unclear about whether anything has been accomplished in that time. So we want to address all of these things. We can see these are common problems that you all are facing as well. I see the top challenge here is the most popular here with 52 people agreeing with that statement. We don't want it to take long to make beautiful decks. And so we're hoping that Figma Slides can be a solution for you all that are experiencing these problems like we have noticed as well. And Figma Slides is meant to do this in three ways here. First, by allowing you to design your way. So bringing all the power of Figma design right at your fingertips in a slide-specific tool. Second, I'll bring everyone into that design. So you don't have everyone in their own tools, their own silos, creating the decks and trying to stitch them back together. Here in Figma Slides, everyone has space and can work, and we're hoping it'll be a tool that's approachable for everyone to use. We'll show you how today. And lastly, we want to go from turning these into presentations into conversation. So just as I am now, instead of talking at a screen and feeling like it's just me and myself over here, maybe Raji coming in the conversation, I can bring you all into the conversation. So I can see that who has agreed with me here. So I can see that we have 54 of you on the line that feel like this is a challenge that you've had as well, 56 people. And in the beginning poll, you could see I was able to actually bring you all into that conversation to make this feel more of a two-way conversation, two-way dialogue, actually 100-person dialogue versus the one-way static readout. So this is what we're going to be doing with Figma Slides, and this is what we're going to cover and teach you how to do all of these things today. So the goal of our next 45 minutes is to help you understand how you can craft impressive slide decks using Figma Slides, well enough that you feel like you can co-create those narratives with all of your collaborators and engage your audience in a meaningful way. That's what we're going to be doing. How are we going to be doing this? There will be three parts of what I'll talk about today. First, I'll talk about crafting your narrative. So thinking about how you outline the story that you want to tell and write in Figma Slides. Then we'll talk about that design piece of how do you can make it less time to create those beautiful decks. And then lastly, delivery. How do you deliver that once you have that slide deck created? How do you think about how you're going to deliver that to your stakeholders? And we just hit 100 followers in this deck. That is incredible. Thank you all so much for being here and joining me in this presentation. This is going to be so dynamic, having all of your input along the way. With that, we're going to go ahead and get started. That's what we're going to be covering here. And I'm going to kick us off with our narrative piece. For the narrative, this is where you start thinking about what story do I want to tell? What am I trying to accomplish in the presentation that I'm putting together? Love to hear from you all. Where are you starting in drafting your stories? Are you often getting together in a brainstorm with your team and adding sticky notes to a FigJam? Are you going right into Figma and designing your slides in the beginning? Are you outlining in a document? Or are you going into another slides tool and creating your slides right there? And then once you filled that out, let me know when you're creating your slides, are you starting with a template or are you starting from scratch every time? So let me know. All you need to do on this bottom one is click on this area here of where you agree the spectrum. Spectrum is the word I was looking for here, of how much you agree with this statement. Okay, so when you all are starting your narratives, it looks like a lot of you are going ahead and starting in a doc. So we have William, we have Holly, we have Ingrid, we have Josh. All of you are starting as outlining your ideas in a doc. That's fantastic. We'll show you how you can do a very similar format right here in Figma Slides. For those of you using FigJam, oh, we have Alex. Alex, thanks for being here. One of our widget creators, a great creator in the Figma community. Great to have you here, Alex. We have Chris, we have Clara, we have Lula. All of you are starting in a FigJam file. I started as a FigJam advocate, love FigJam, and you can start that same way and then convert that into a deck. We'll show you how to do that today. And then for those of you who have been starting in Figma, we'll show you how you can take whatever you have in Figma and very easily bring that into Figma Slides today. And then, of course, we'll also show you how to get started right in Slides. Let's see how y'all are feeling about template. So if I go ahead and reveal those results, so we have some of you who are never starting with a template. You're strongly disagreeing with the statement. So let's see, we have some folks over here. Oh, I didn't fill that out. I filled that out. I'm usually starting with a template, or if I'm being honest, I'm copying a deck from one of our designers like Raji, who blows my mind with the decks they create sometimes. And we have a lot of folks who are strongly agreeing as well that you're usually starting with a template, and then some folks who are in the middle. We'll show you how you can either start with a template, and we have a handful of templates available for you that are out of the box, amazing, beautiful designs that you can go ahead and start riffing on. We'll also show you how you can create custom templates. So we know that following your brand guidelines is paramount for a lot of you in organization. And so we'll show you how you can get started by saving a custom template that your team then can use for the standard processes, standard slide decks that you're using every time. With that, let's go ahead and talk about how to do this. I'll start by talking about generally starting from scratch and outlining in Figma Slides. So you can do that instead of starting with a doc if you want to. Then we'll dig into how you can use FigJam and go from a board to a deck. This is still coming. The team is still working on building this, but I'll demo it today so you understand how to do this once it's available. And then lastly, I'll talk about bringing things from Figma into Figma Slides. That sound good to everyone? Okay. Looking like a few folks are still looking for the link for the deck, so we'll share that again. We'll keep sharing that in the chat. You can also find that in the resources tab as well on Zoom. With that, let's get going. Let's talk about the 3 ways that you can create. And the fun news is here, I'm going to go out and I am actually in the deck that I'm going to start editing together with you now. So for this, please follow along in Zoom. For those of you in the presenter view and the presentation, I'll come back to this and continue going. But for now, I want to pop into the editor. So we are in Figma Slides right now, of course. I'm going to go ahead and exit full screen up here in the top. And then you can see I can go out to the editor view of this presentation by clicking this here. For those of you with the presenter link, you won't be able to get into the editor of this file. So please don't worry. Don't be confused if you're trying to get where I'm going. But this is where you can go to edit your own slide styles. So I'm going to go ahead and open this up in Figma Slides and go to our slide here. So the first thing I want to call out is the navigation of Figma Slides when you go into the editor view. So if I go to the editor view here, you'll notice that hopefully this feels very familiar to the other slides tools that you've been using. So you have the slide navigation over here on the left, you have your slide design canvas here in the center, and then you have the editing properties over here on the right. So we're hoping that this helps you get all hands on deck by allowing you to make this feel approachable to everyone who may be contributing to the deck that you're creating. Now I'm going to go ahead and show how to create a new slide deck from scratch. So you can do that wherever you create new files in Figma today. I am in the desktop app now, so all I need to do is click this new file button here. You can also go to the file browser and go to figma.com, go to your file browser and create a new file there. When I go to create a new file, I can still, of course, create my design files or FigJam boards, but here you'll have this new option for new slide deck. And this is where I can go ahead and create a new slide. So I'm going to go ahead and click that. The first thing that you'll notice when I do that is you'll see that when the first thing I do is I have this templates modal here. So I have all of these out of the box templates that I can use, and you'll have all of these as well that you can utilize. And then you'll also see custom templates that are specific to your organization. So this is where you can save your branded slide deck that everyone in your team or organization should be using. And then that'll be the first thing that they see when they go to create a new presentation. I can also choose to start from scratch. And this is also where I can start with an outline. I'll come back to that in a moment, but first I'm going to choose one of these templates. Miggy, also on our designer advocate team, created this an amazing casual vibes template that it's summer here in the US, so I'm feeling very summery vibes, and this one resonates with me. So I'm going to go ahead and select that one. When I click to view the template, I can see the slides that are available, the slide layout that are available in this template, and I can choose any of these to get started. So maybe I'm looking for a hello slide, and I can go ahead and click by inserting this. Just today, the slides team also released the ability to add all slides from a template. So the team has been hard at work, and after the launch of Config, to add quality fixes and also improvements to slides. We have more launches coming further in the year, but they have 10 updates in 10 days. And this was day 6 today. They launched the ability to add all slides from a template. So we could do that by clicking add all slides here. But I can also click one of these slides to add. And if you're starting from an outline deck today, you can start drafting your slides right here in Figma Slides by simply adding slides for kind of the main bullets, the main topics that you want to create, by coming in here, adding some new slides for the topics, and then adding your component. So you can start drafting that narrative, that story right here in Figma Slides. And I'll show you a few other tools in a little bit that you can use to make that outlining process a little bit smoother. And that's how you can go about creating from scratch using a template. You can also get back to the templates and see all of the slide layouts, and you very easily insert other layouts here by clicking those here. And you can also go back and pull from many different templates. So if I have a few different templates that I like the layouts of, I can go ahead and insert those in here. So let's grab this one. Let's say I wanted to insert this into the deck that I created. I can go ahead and paste that in here. When you're pulling from multiple different templates, the first thing you might notice is that there's a different style, and you don't want to end up with what we call the Franken deck, where you have multiple styles applied and it's very visually inconsistent. So in Figma Slides, there's a very easy solve for this. And the fact that you can add in those new slides, so I added the slide, this layout here, and then I can come up to the template style on the right here and click that drop down, and you'll see the style that I've been using in the rest of the deck. I can simply click that, and it's going to magically update the template style to fit in with the rest of my deck. So what it did there is it updated the text styles and also the background and the color styles to match the rest of the deck that I was using here. Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of love for this in the chat. I also think it's amazing. Let's look at one more. So again, I can pull from any deck that I want. Casual Vibes is one of my favorite, but let's for fun go and pick a different one. So let's say our mid-mod theme. I really like these 3 parts here. I can go ahead and select those, add them to my deck. Again, we have the mid-mod theme from that deck, but I can come up here, choose the deck I've been using, and voila. You also have this little fun remix button. You can click that remix and get a few alternative options until you feel like it matches your style. Great. I've seen a lot of love for this in the chat. Sarah, as a designer, I love this. As a non-designer, I love this. Seems like there's a lot of love in general. And that's getting started from a template or from scratch in Figma Slides. Next, I want to show you how you can go ahead and get started from a FigJam board for those of you who are using FigJam to outline your stories. So here I'm going to start from the same entry point. I'm going to go back to the plus button here and create a new slide deck. But instead of starting from scratch or starting from a template, I'm going to choose starting from an outline, starting with an outline. And I do want to note, if you go to your accounts today, this will not be available. So the team is still working on refining exactly how this works. And so this will be coming to you soon. I'm just going to demo this now so that once it's live, you'll see how you can use this. And so what I would do here is I would click start with an outline, or I could go to FigJam, or I could choose from a template. A lot of entry points. I'm going to start with this start with an outline option. And then I can pick any of the boards I have. So I have this meeting best practices board where I jammed with the team on coming up with the meeting best practice ideas that we could share with folks in a shortcut article. So let's say I wanted to take all the ideas that I had captured in this board and turn it into a presentation that I could share with you all. All I need to do is go back to my slide here. That's that meeting best practices ideas board that I had here. I select that. Then I need to pick a template to apply that to. I mentioned Miggy created Casual Vibes. He also created this great process design deck here. So I'm going to go ahead and select that one and go ahead and click create outline. Now that's going to take what I had in that FigJam board, all of the text and stickies and all of the ideas I had captured there, and it's going to generally create this outline based on the content that I had there. So you can see, and it's generating all of this based on what we had captured. So the board was called Meeting Best Practice Ideas. I had a lot of ideas on how to run effective meeting. And you can see it's pulling out everything from the title of Effective Meeting Strategies. That seems pretty apt to me, to 3 different sections. So these are different sections that it's organizing based on what it found in the board. So the sections it gathered for me are understanding meeting challenges and best practices for effective meetings. And then you can see here, it's pulling out the threads of what I had captured in those stickies. Great. So that again is getting started from a FigJam board into a deck. You'll see it's essentially just meant to create the outline for you, and then you can fill in all of the details to make it fit exactly what you want to present. So that is our second way of getting started. So we talked about starting with Figma Slides and starting in FigJam, which again is coming soon. The last thing that I want to talk about is starting from Figma Design. So we know a lot of you have been designing slides in Figma Design for years, and we want to be able to make sure that you can get that content very easily from Figma Design over to Figma Slides. So let's say, for example, I designed the next 3 slides I want to share with you all in Figma Design. So here I have all of the power that I know and love in Figma Design, so I can have all of the properties that I need to edit. And also you can set up prototyping, so you can connect the different slides in the order that you want. But we know this has its challenges, especially for me as a non-designer is not as comfortable in Figma Design. For example, if I wanted to change the order of these slides, I can reorder them, but then of course my prototyping connections are off. So it can just cause some issues when you're going to present. So Figma Slides solves all these kind of presenting issues for you, but we don't want your content to be stuck in Figma Design. We don't want you to have to start from scratch in Figma Slides. So what you can do is you can copy the content you have in Figma Design and simply paste it over to Figma Slides. So how I would do that is I could select all of these frames. So I'm going to select these here, and then all I'm going to use is a Control-C. So I Control-C to copy those, or right-click to copy them. Go back over to my deck here, and I can click paste. So I Control-V, Command-V, Command-V, Command-C, Command-V, and I have them pasted over here. And they're not pasted as static slides. They are actually editable components. So every element, every layer that I had in my Figma Design file, I have here editable in my Figma Slides file. Great. I'm seeing some applause for this feature. It's one of my favorites as well, especially for those of you who have all of your content in Figma Design already. This applies to frames that you've set up for slides, but also any other design content that you want to copy and paste into Figma Slides. It's as simple as a Command-C, Command-V. Very powerful. Great. Okay, I'm double checking to make sure we don't have any big questions, plans before I continue going here. But I do want to show one last thing here is that we understand a lot of you loved designing in Figma Design. So if I go back to that, because of that open canvas feel, we know you love kind of laying out your story in rows and columns in this open canvas format. And so we didn't want you to lose that when you come over to Figma Slides. And so in Figma Slides, we've been looking at the single slide view so far. But over here in the top left corner, there's another option here where you can switch over to grid view. Grid view gives you that similar format to Figma Design, where it's an open canvas, but you have it here in that structured way. So if I wanted to reorder 2 of my slides, let's say I wanted this slide to come before this slide, I can easily drag and drop, and it keeps it in that structured format that I've come to know and love. And as you'll notice, this is collaborative. So I have Raji in here. I can say, hey, Raj, and we can chat, we can all edit, and we can collaborate. So Raji's moving that around for me to make sure I have my story in the right order. And all of that is super easy. And again, this is fully editable. So if we wanted to change even something as simple as the color of this, we don't have to go back to single slide view. We can make all of our edits right here from grid view as well. So again, bringing all of that power in the same kind of open canvas feel that you've come to know and love in Figma Design, but giving you the structure of a grid and keeping it connected to the slides format that you have there. Let's do some questions. Couldn't agree more, Raji. What do we want to address as we're getting started here?
Absolutely, Katie. I think we had a lot of people wowed by the FigJam to
Yeah.
slides. And there's a lot of questions about, is there like an automated feature? There's a few questions. One, is there like an automated feature from getting from Figma to Figma Slides? And then quite a few questions about component. Do the components update? How do you make sure they update?
Yes, great question. Lots to dig into there. So let's start with the Figma design to Figma slides. The best solution right now is to copy and paste from Figma design to Figma slides, and you can copy and paste as many slides as you need to. So if you have dozens of slides in Figma design today, you should still be able to select all of them and copy them over. So it shouldn't hopefully be that much of a lift to get them over. That said, the team is thinking about better import options from Figma design into Figma slides. So more to come on that. But in the meantime, we hope it's not too much of a lift to get things from Figma design into slides. The AI functionality that we showed of being able to automatically generate a deck from a board, that is FigJam specific for now, but let us know if you feel like there's ways that you would use that to have AI generate your deck from a Figma design file. We can absolutely think about adding that in the future. Great. And then the other part of your question, Raji, was about component. I was going to get to that in a bit, but we will dig into it now, right? Why not? Let's go into this slide right here where we have a component. So if you not only have your slides in Figma Design, but you have components that you're using with your team, let's say here I have this component that has one variant on it. I can copy those. So again, I'm using a Command C to copy that and paste it here into Figma Design. I'm going to remove that one that I have here. And when I copy that, it does copy the original component. So if you look up in the right-hand side of my properties panel here, you can see, I can see that this is a component here, and I can even switch the variants here. If I wanted to go back to the original source of that component, I have that option here to go back to the main component. And then if I wanted to customize this in a way outside of the instances available or outside of the variants available, I could also detach the instance here and customize it specific to the slide. That said, if I leave it as a component here, any changes that are made in the original main component will be pushed into my slides. So I can use this for things like logos. I can use it for headers or footers that I want to apply across all of my slides. Paste that in as a component. And then if you push any changes to it, it will push it to all of the slides that you have that applied in as well. Any other questions about the creation process, Raji, before we move on to editing?
Now, we have a lot of other great questions, but I think you have a lot of content going to cover it. So let's just keep
Okay.
moving.
Okay, we'll keep moving. We'll talk about editing. Keep your questions coming. We'll have lots of time at the end, hopefully, if I don't talk too much about all of these editing capabilities. We'll have plenty of time at the end for questions. And after we talk about some of the editing capabilities, we can dig into more of those components questions as well. Great. With that, let's go in and start talking about, so we created our slide. We talked about creating from Figma slides, bringing over from Figma design, or starting from a FigJam file and creating your deck. Now we're going to talk about the design piece of once you have that narrative laid out, how do you then move into creating your designs for that story? And we talked about the navigation of our single slide view here. So I switched back from grid view into single slide view. You can do that right here in the top. As you do that, you'll have, again, your slide navigation on the left. You'll have your toolbar on the bottom here where you can add in your tools to start mapping out and designing your story. And then as you click on any of those elements, you have your properties for those elements over here on the right. Let's dig into some of the tools that we have available here. So if I go in here, let's start by talking about text. I'm going to switch these to, we'll start talking about text. So text you can find on the toolbar here. Also the keyboard shortcut T that you're used to in FigJam and Figma Design. And once you place your text on the board, the first thing I want to color on your slide, the first thing that I want to color are text styles. So over here on the right, you'll see that there are some default text styles that you have available on your slide. And if we start a new text, we can see these default text styles will be here, and you'll have some that'll go with the template that you're using. And you can also add in other text styles. So if I wanted to add a text style for a subtitle, I could add those in here. When you're working from a slide template, you'll have the text styles that are built in for that particular template. So if I go in and add one of those slides that we looked at before, maybe Miggy's casual slide guide, again, if I click on this, you'll see that we'll have the text styles that are specific to that template. If at any point you want to edit the text styles from that template, you can come in here to the edit text style button and you can change that text style. So I could, for example, change the font. When you make changes to the text style, it will apply everywhere that text style is applied throughout the deck. This is a way that you can use text styles to keep your slide design consistent across all of your deck. And if you need to make last minute changes to colors or fonts or sizes, you can do that and have it applied across the entire deck at once. And if you need to add in text styles, you can add in text styles that are applied from your design systems by using your libraries that you have set up in Figma Design. So I can click on this Apply Styles button here, and then I can see all of the text styles that I have available published in Figma Design. And again, as we talked about before, if those text styles are changed in your design systems and your libraries in Figma Design, those will be applied anywhere you're using those in Figma Slides. That said, if I'd want to do something a little custom, so I don't want to use this header, I can click this Show Details button here, and I can start editing this specific to this slide. So maybe I want to make this a little bit bigger, and I can do that. I can either apply that edit to the style itself, or I can keep that as a custom text element here. So if I click on that now, I see this is now a custom text style. So we recommend keeping as many things as possible using the text styles you have set up and setting up additional styles when needed. That way you can make those changes and have them applied everywhere. But of course, there's going to be areas you need to get custom, and you can always apply those custom text as well. Other things that you have available, you can see there's a lot of controls that you have available for things like the color of your text, opacity, things like that. And you can also link it for any of your text as well to get that hyperlink for any things you want to connect to. You can also connect to other slides. One other fun thing that I love to do is you can connect one slide to another slide by selecting the text and then linking to the particular slide that you want to connect. So maybe I want to connect this one to slide 17. I can come in and drag that here. That way, when we're presenting that, it will link us to the next slide. Right. That's text styles. The next object we have down here, the next element we have down here are our shapes. I can add in those shapes and edit those as much as I need. Whenever we have any object selected on the slide, the properties on the right will update and will be dynamic for that particular object. So you can see our shape properties are a little bit different from our text properties, for example. But I can still do a lot of the editing that and I can use those to do a lot of the editing that I want to do on the shape. For example, I can remove the border or change the colors. You can also do fun things like add gradients or add an image fill to any of your shapes. It's a lot of fun options that you can do there. Great. Then, of course, you have tables. So if you're using text and you want to make your text inputs a little bit more structured, you always have the table option there to add things in defined rows and columns. And then images. You can add images using the media button here or videos. And you can also drag and drop or copy and paste images onto your slides. So let's say that I have these two slides that two images about parks that I want to add to demonstrate how fun slides are. I can go ahead and paste those in here. And then it's going to bring up this fun option where I get to decide where I want to drop those. So I can maybe drop the first one up here and then the second one here. This is going to bring it in rather large. So I can go ahead and resize that. I'm resizing both of them at once. Great. So you can see this is the slides team. They're amazing. They built this incredible tool and they have a lot of fun together. This is them at the park. And I inserted my text I inserted my first image into my text. How fun is that? Very cool. That's because the drop area that I selected for that first image was over the text. And so it placed the image into my text. That's fun. Okay, but my other image is here. Now that I have the image on the board, again, this is the incredible slide team having fun on the slide. Once I have that image here, I can have the editing options for images over here on the right. So I can do things like round the corners, and you can also, there's these very fun dragging options. So I can easily round the corners, and you can see my corners are getting rounded. I can add a border, change the color. So of course, there's a lot of things I can do. I can also do things like crop this or tile it if I wanted it to be a different fit here in my object. And great, so it's looking pretty good. We have a lot of things on our side. We have this fun background of our text. I love that I love that we can do that here by dragging the image onto it. And those are the core objects that you can add from your toolbar down here at the bottom. But of course, we don't want to lose AI. So let's say I have this image, but maybe I want a more custom image that I don't have handy. You can use AI for that, and you can all come here and respond. Let me know which of the AI features that were released in Figma were your favorite. And I'm not sure where those images are coming from. Let me reload this tab. Let me know what AI actions are your favorite from Figma Design, because you have all of those same actions right here in Figma Slides. So remove background seems to be a fan favorite. That's great. I'm going to start with make an image. So let's say I wanted a slides image, an image of a slides at a park to color my designs here. What I can do is I can come into the AI actions and I can go click on make image. And here I can describe exactly what I'm looking for. So I can say a slide, a park in a cartoon style. Go ahead and click make image. Remove background, very popular. I suppose that's because a lot of you have images that you're trying to use, but you're trying to blend them into your slide more. And we'll take a look at what that looks like in just a moment. Great. So we have a few options here. Let's see. We have this one's kind of fun. We have this one that's a nice cartoon style. I think I'm going to go with that one. Once we have on our side, let's take a look at that remove background. That's a fan favorite here. That also is in the AI actions menu here. Click remove background. And then it's going to take a minute to try to find the object of that and remove the background for that image. Great. We also have, there we go. Did a fantastic job. And again, this allows it to blend into the slide a little bit more. So there you go. We have a fun slide that we can add into our slides here. A few other favorites. It looks like rewrite this is a favorite. That allows you to rewrite the text in a different style or tone according to your brand style or tone guide. You could do that by clicking on the text. Where I linked that text. You could do that by clicking on the text and then using the AI action here to rewrite this. You can also translate or shorten things. But let's quickly talk about search for similar, another favorite of Tim and Michelle and Carmela and Olga. That's another one of my favorites because I'm commonly borrowing things that our designers created and I don't often have the original source. So let's say, for example, I have the original slide cover for this presentation, but it's an image. So as a PNG, I can't really do anything with this. For example, I can't edit the text here. I can't change the color if I wanted to. So there's a functionality in Figma Slides, search for similar. So if I click on that AI actions, I can click this search for similar option. This is going to try to pull up any results in Figma design files that are similar to what we're looking at in that image. This will allow you to then pull in that component. So what I can do now that I found similar objects is I can preview it. I can go to the original source file and see what else is in there to get some context on that design. Or I can go ahead and choose to insert that into my file here. So if I go ahead and click insert, now I have this in my slide. I tried to resize that. Oops. Let me do that once more. I tried to resize that and it resized the text because it's an editable frame there. So let me do that once more and teach you about another one of my favorite tools, which is scale. There is the scale tool in Figma Slides. You can use the keyboard shortcut K. I'm going to pop this out here where I can get this over. Great. So I have this here. What I did before is I resized this by dragging, but because I'm in the select tool, that's a frame and it's going to change the size of my frame. Scale, use the keyboard shortcut K, or you can come down here to the option and change the scale tool here. Scale allows you to scale the entire frame. So I can scale this down and now it's looking a little bit more manageable. But because I pulled this in from a Figma design file, it's totally editable. So instead of that PNG image that I couldn't do anything with, now I can change this. So I can say, we're getting started with Figma Slide, and I can remove certain things if I don't need the date. And I can edit this as much as I need to. The other thing I regularly do when I do this is use the selection colors. So anytime you bring anything into Figma Slides that's editable, you'll have this selection colors option. So here I can come and quickly change the selection style either to fit the template that we're using now, so this dark template, or I could use our brand colors, or I could select from other colors to fit this exactly into the style that I need. Gosh, that was a lot. One more thing before we quickly check in and see how we're actually two more things. I lied. Two more things before we quickly check in for other questions. The one I want to talk about is tone dial. So the last AI feature I want to talk about is tone dial. So this is a Figma Slides specific AI action, and that is you select any text objects. You'll have this tone dial here, and you can adjust the tone in this fun dial format. You can decide, do you want it more professional, more casual, more concise, or more expanded, and you can play around with it. So maybe I need to present out and want a paragraph to present out to our leadership team. People think it's highly engaging and persuasive. Love to hear it. Or maybe I want to make it more concise and casual to present out to my team, and I can say the presentation is awesome. So the tone dial is another fun one that we play around with all the time. And again, all you need to do to access that is click on a text object, and then you'll find the tone dial up here in the top right. The last thing I want to talk about is making slides pixel perfect. Because we've talked about all of the tools, design tools that are accessible right here in Figma Slides. So hopefully they're accessible for everyone, even if you've never used Figma Slides. I'm hoping everything we showed you is very easy to grasp and doesn't feel intimidating at all. But we also don't want to lose the power for all of you designers who are used to designing in Figma Design. So I've moved over to our alignment scale here. If y'all are still following me in the deck, you can vote on our alignment scale here. But for those of you that are regularly using Figma Design, we want you to have that power right here in Figma Slides. So in Figma Slides, we have a concept of design mode. That is down here in the toggle. The team also added a shortcut for it. So you can see that here on hover is Shift D. And you can toggle this design mode if you have a Figma editor seat. You can go ahead and toggle this design mode, which will then give you all the power of Figma Design right here in Figma Slides. So I'm going to do that again so you can see what the difference is. So if I'm in slide mode, I have a pared down version of our properties here. If I switch to design mode, two things happen. Our toolbar changes to the design toolbar, and our properties switch to all the properties that we have available in Figma Design. So that allows me to make more of those nuanced changes that I need to get this exactly the pixel perfect way that I need. And also to do things like create those frames, use the pen tool, use all of those tools that you're using in Figma Design right here in Figma Slides. Great. And I think we had a question about creating a component in Figma Slides. So you can add those components here. And let me see. Don't want to speak wrong. I don't believe you have the ability to paste. Oh, that's also a component. Let me grab something that's not. Oh, these are. I'm grabbing all my components. These are all components. Great. So you won't have I don't believe you can create those components right here in Figma Slides. So you would create those components in Figma Design and then bring them into Figma Slides. But you can edit all of those, go back to the main component in Figma Design to continue editing them. And those are all our design tools. Raji, what kind of questions are we having come up about design tools while we're here?
Not as many related, mostly like people are really excited about slides. So we have a ton of questions. I do think that something that's related to design tools is
Yeah.
really like a larger question about like how do we think about design systems when it comes to slides, and how do you set up your own color scheme, all that really related to like how do I create essentially a design system for my slide for people to use.
Absolutely. Great question. So the main systems that you want to think about when you're designing for Figma Slide, designing your design system for Figma Slide are the text styles. And so I'm going to go back in the slides mode here, thinking about those text styles that you're applying in the templates that you're saving. So making sure you have the text styles set up, adding as many as you feel like you need and connecting them to the text styles that you have set up in your design systems today. And then also those color schemes. So if we go to the colors here, you'll see there's the template colors that are available at the top here. You can add additional theme colors here and also edit the theme colors that are available by clicking on this edit template color option. The template colors that you're setting there are the ones that will automatically update when you're updating the template size and switching to that template style. So when you go to publish your template, we'll look at this in a minute, but when you go to publish your template, you select which theme that you want to publish with that template, and then that applies the template colors that you're setting up there. We have an entire webinar dedicated to setting up your custom templates. We're going to have Miggy, our designer advocate teammate here, and he's going to get much more in the weeds about applying all of your design systems, thinking about setting up those components, thinking about all of the different settings that you want to configure before you're saving your custom template, and using all those pro user settings in Figma Design. So that's on August 15th. So come check that out. We'll link out to the event series at the end of today's session, but that's a great session where we'll dig much more into the weeds about using Figma Design and setting up your templates in Figma Slides. But at a basic level, I'd recommend template colors and template text styles make sure you're configuring those when you're thinking about how to enable your team to use your styles and libraries here in Figma Slide.
And then one last follow-up, a lot of folks have asked about auto layout, and I don't know if you covered this because I've been covering the questions, but yeah, does Figma Slides have auto layout? It's really the question, or how would you go about that?
Great question. Yes, you can apply auto layout, and Figma Slides is here set up with auto layout in the sense that you can set up, you have to be in design mode to configure auto layout. But if you're in slides mode, you'll have this auto layout applied. And what I mean by that is we'll have our auto layout here, and I can easily like change the spacing of this auto layout. But this is using auto layout. So it will bump down as we add to our subtitle here, it bumps down the rest. So it has that auto layout applied. So if you can configure auto layout in your slides or use the templates that have auto layout applied, all of that will be accessible to everyone on your team. If you want to configure auto layout, you need to go into the design mode option here, and then you'll have all of your standard layout, auto layout properties and all of that you can set up right here. Great question. Great. Okay, we are quickly coming up on time. This always happens. We are going to have another Q&A session at the end after I talk about our last section of the day, delivery. So let me quickly cover that, and then we can dig into as many questions as we can get to with the time that we have left. So with that, I'm going to, I think, switch back into the present mode here. And you can follow along in the presentation again. I want to know how confident you feel presenting. So let me know if you're feeling very confident as the presenter, maybe not as confident. Let me know using the alignment scale here. Because the last stage, after you've set up the narrative, you've outlined exactly what talking points you want to include, then you've designed it, you have compelling visuals to really help your audience understand and feel your message. The last piece is delivering that to your stakeholders. And this might be a meeting. So you might deliver your presentation in a format like we are now, where you're all joining, people are there with you live. It might be sharing something async. So you might be putting together a presentation deck and sharing that async. And it's likely a combination. So it's likely you're having a meeting. You might be having multiple meetings with different stakeholders. You might be sharing out decks afterwards. This delivery period can range depending on the message that you're trying to communicate and the points you're trying to get across to your audience. But oftentimes, this will involve some type of presenting. So some type of putting together information and sharing that out with your group. And it's important to be confident as a presenter in order to deliver that message. So it looks like we have a lot of pro facilitators here. So it looks like we have, let's see, I I feel generally pretty confident, but we have a lot of folks here. Let me see if I can see who we have here. A lot of folks that are more on the strongly agree. We have some folks that don't feel as confident presenting. This is really an art, and the more you practice it, the more confident you'll feel over time. But there are also practices that we can help with, and Figma Slides can hopefully become a tool to help you increase your confidence. Let's talk about that now. My high level tip is that thinking about that your participants are going to disengage if they become bored, uncomfortable, or don't care. The don't care piece really goes into the first two things that you did. So crafting your narrative, making compelling visuals, and making sure you have a strong reason for why you're presenting to your group. I want to talk about more about the bored and uncomfortable piece because there's tools that you can use in Figma Slides in order to help keep your group engaged by not allowing them to get bored or uncomfortable. And my three key tips here are staying confident, staying captivating, and staying collaborative. I'll dig into the tools you can use for each of these here in Figma Slides. In order to stay confident, there's two things you can do out of Figma Slides. The first thing is to buffer some prep time. The last thing you want is to come in frazzled to a meeting. You're already riled up, you're already off your game, and that's going to show. And your audience might disengage because they're a little uncomfortable. They sense that you're a little stressed out, you're not as confident, they won't be as engaged. And lastly, practice. The more you practice, the more confident you'll feel, and the more that will come across to your audience to keep them comfortable and understand that you're commanding the message. And then the last thing here is confidence by getting presenter notes. So if you have presenter notes, if you like to have presenter notes in order to go over your talking points, make sure you're not missing anything, you can add those in Figma Slides here. Right above this toolbar, we have this Show Presenter Notes option here. So if you pop that up, you'll see the presenter notes are here. You can do fun things like add emojis in your presenter notes, add bold, and add in any thoughts that you want to add here to boost your confidence. So that is remaining confident during your presentation. And again, the more you do it, the more confident you'll get. And hopefully Figma Slides gives you that confidence because you have really well-designed slides. You have this presenter notes, you have everything that you need at your fingertips. Next is captivating. Here you can add in things like interactive components. Again, we'll dig more into that with Mickey on August 15th, but for those of you who are already creating interactive components, you can paste those into your slides and they will show that in presenter mode. You can also add in animations here. So if I click on any slide and go up here to animate, so it's on the right-hand side next to design is animate, I can come in here and I can add animation. So I can decide between a few of these. Smart Animate is my favorite because it will take the objects that are in the slides and help connect them in an animation that looks good. And this is the similar to Smart Animate option you have in Figma Design prototyping. So if I click that Smart Animate, I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. But first, I want to talk about a couple of other things. The first is using a variety of formats. So adding images, adding activities, and also video. We didn't talk about video, but video is under the media button. You would add in or paste in the video in the format that you prefer. And you can play those videos right here in your slides. And then making your presentation collaborative. So again, your audience will disengage if they become bored. You may have done this at moments in today's presentation. If you got bored, you might have tuned out, you might have gone and checked Slack or something else. I tried to combat that by making it interactive and also entertaining, hopefully. But you can make it interactive by adding in live components here. So you've seen me doing that by adding in polls and alignment scales. All of those live here. And you can add in polls, space stamps, alignment scales. You've seen all of these used today, and you can add them in here yourself. You can also add in prototypes. So this is where you can add in links to your live designs where you've been designing. So let's say, for example, we created this travel app and I wanted to share this out and present it with with you all. I can grab the link to that prototype. So I go into the presenter view of the prototype, go to click share, copy that link, and then I can go ahead and paste that into my deck here. Take it out of the menu and then paste that into my deck here. This is going to be the live prototype. So it's not a static image. It's actually going to be a live prototype and your audience will be able to click through to engage with that. So look at that in 1 second. The last thing I want to point out is that you can have multiplayer presenting. So what I mean by that is when you're in this presenter view, you can have more than one person sharing. So if I go ahead and click through now, you'll see that's the Smart Animate that we talked about, where it's going from the previous slide and sliding in because it's recognizing that object there. And then this is our prototype slide. And now we can have multiplayer presenting where I can stop spotlighting. And now Raji is starting to spotlight. And now I'm going to follow Raji here. So if Raji starts clicking through this prototype, here we go, it's spotlighting Raji. Now I'm going to follow along and see exactly what Raji is doing. So you can see I'm not touching anything. My mouse is over here. But because Raji is clicking through that prototype, we're following him in this presentation. So that way you can make it collaborative by having multiple people presenting and multiple people walking through what you're sharing with your group. That way you can have your designer, your PM, your engineer, all in the same presentation and presenting the parts that they are specializing in. Thanks, Raji. Great. So with that, now we're talking about getting ready to share. So when you are ready to share your presentation, you can present with your presenter notes or present the view that you've been seeing today with this present option or present plus notes. You can also grab the handy link to your presentation and share that with your audience as well, like we shared it with all of you. This is also where you can share on this. And right next to that, you can click share to share in editors. So Raji was helping me on this, so I invited him as well as Lauren and Jerry on our team so they could come collaborate on this deck. This is also where you can publish your template. So if I wanted to publish this deck to the entire Figma org to help them use this to share my slides with their team, this is again where I'm going to select that theme, go ahead and select that, and I'm going to publish this. When you publish, you can publish to your specific team or to your entire organization. I'm going to share this to the entire organization and click publish. Great. And then last but not least, you can publish to community. So if you have a template that you think everyone in the community can, and actually you can't publish to community, but there are slides templates on community, and I published this deck as a community template earlier today. So if you go ahead on figma.com/community and search for getting started with Figma Slides, this is live, and I will also go ahead and pop that in the chat now. So you can use this deck to share this with your teammates, to practice the different concepts we've talked about, whatever you would like to do. And I promised to leave plenty of time for Q&A. I did not deliver on that promise, but we have some time. I'm hoping that you all have seen how you can craft impressive slide decks using Figma Slides, and that'll allow you to co-create these amazing narratives with your team and engage your audience in a more compelling way. Looks like folks are agreeing that we're very excited for Figma Slides. But without further ado, in the 2 minutes we have left, I would love to dig into some of the questions we have. Luckily, Raji has been curating some of the questions you all have been sharing as we go. So I'm putting Raji on the spot here, but I'm hoping we have some questions. We do. Starting with from Alvaro. Thanks for being here, Alvaro. They say, will we be able to use the featured follow on the mobile app web browser? They are working on that now. Yeah, you can present from Figma Slides on your mobile app. You can pull up those presentation links using mobile today. And we're working on adding more functionality there, like presenter notes and other things that you can do. So yes, check out Figma Slides on mobile today and expect to see more coming there in the future. Great question, Alvaro. Over to Holly. Holly, what kind of permission settings needed to happen in order for the slide to be shared and interactive in today's share? Great question, Holly. I'm going to go back to the editor and show you the share option here. I chose this. Oh, actually, I shared from, we're sharing from the presenter view. So I'm going to stay here and click this. So when you click share, I gave access to anyone. You can choose to leave the access in your organization, but I toggle this over to anyone. You could also have some of these additional security measures if you want, but that's the setting that I used, Holly, in order to make this visible to you all. And then you also have this similar sharing capabilities in the editor, and those are two separate settings. So this one is only for everyone in Figma, but my presenter view is to anyone. Great question, Holly. This one from Jaime, can you manipulate frame size aspect ratio for unique viewpoint? Another great question, Jaime. This isn't available today, but it is something that team is working on soon. So expect to see updates coming on this soon of the frame size that you can have for your slide. But today, the standard slide size is what's available. But as we're in this open beta period, we expect to add more. So if you have specific ratios that you would love to see, please let us know, and we'll definitely think about updating that very soon. Great. Vivian asked, I'm trying to move my team from Google Slides to Figma Slides. However, they are non-designers, so don't have editor seats on Figma. Will they be able to edit the slides without an editor seat? Such an important question, Vivian, and absolutely. We're hoping that Figma Slides becomes a very powerful solution for non-designers. Everything I showed today, your non-design, even people who don't have a Figma editor seat will be able to do. The only thing they will not be able to do is click into design mode. So everything that I shared outside of that design mode, your non-design teammates will be able to do in Figma Slides. All they need to have is a Figma account. And during this beta period, Figma Slides is free to use. So ask them to try it out now. There's no additional cost to get them in there. They don't need to have a Figma design seat. Anyone can come in and start using Figma Slides today. Great question. We're going to do one more, and then we are going to be out of time here. Let's see from Jenny. Jenny says, from the Figma Slides rows view, can your label name the rows? Great question, Jenny. So I think what we're talking about here is the grid view. In the grid view, you'll see all the slides have a number, the slide number. We are actually just talking internally about whether you could change the names of slides. Today, every slide is numbered in sequential order, and the rows here are in an entire row. It doesn't have a name. But that's something that we hope to change in the future. If you have specifics of how you'd like to see the sections or the slides be numbered or named, definitely pass that feedback around. We would love to hear it as we think about how we might implement that in the future. But with that, I'm going to pop us to the end of our session here. So many great questions. I really appreciate you all being here and also bringing these amazing questions to us. Raji, thank you for curating the questions. With that, I want to thank you so much for being here. Thank you for engaging. I hope you learned a little bit more about using Figma Slides and are excited to try it out with your team.